Welcome to Retro Warriors episode 343. Woo. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
Yeah, Guy pointed out you can't say as always anymore.
Yeah, I can, though.
Oh, yeah.
I can,
right.
though.
Good.
Like how quickly you cave. All right, sure. I'm not going to die on this hill. I have no horse in this race.
It's 2022. Words stopped meaning anything years ago. So whatever. Let's roll with it.
Fuck it. As far as housekeeping, I know everyone's going to be so shocked. They're going to be like, "Oh my god, this is blowing my mind right now." But I'm still a little sick.
What?
I still have this weird wheezing laughter. I'm still kind of coughing some stuff up. I'm on the mend. I'm doing better. I know a lot of people have been wishing me well.
Yeah, his wheezing
Discord.
laugh isn't like full on Muttley, but it's like it's a mix between himself and Muttley. So
yeah,
just
it's like if I was channeling Muttley, this is what it would. I think if I intentionally didn't make any noise when I was laughing, it would sound like Muttley. Like I don't know. So yeah, if I'm a little sick sounding, it's because I'm a little sick sounding. So sorry. Hopefully, because also for Uncut people, we've recorded this episode a week early.
Right.
And our next episode, we're recording a week late because I ended up having an engagement on our recording week. So we bumped one episode up and one episode back.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how the timing on the uncuts is going to work, but they're going to come in like kind of a weird, they're going to show up on weird days.
Yeah.
So one's going to be early, one's going to be late.
But for anybody not listening to the uncut, you won't notice any problems. So this is just normal business usual.
Yeah. So for uncut people, sorry. Again, as in December, please ration yourself. You have to go a couple weeks.
It's too late. If you're already listening to this, it's too late. This is the one you were supposed to ration.
You got to finish it. So you're here. You're here. Maybe we'll just name this episode. We'll name it Retro Warriors 343. Please ration, and then they'll know. They'll be like, all right, the schedule's weird. I'll ration that one.
Yeah.
Just listen to like 10 minutes a day until the next episode comes out.
Right.
It'll be perfect. My week, I've been playing Destiny 2.
I remember hearing that in the previous episodes, and also when we were recording After Hours.
Just gobs of Destiny 2 over. It's kind of reaching the point where I'm probably going to stop talking about it on the show because
it's just
if
part
you have
of
to
your
ask,
normal life now.
Yeah, it's just become a thing where. Yeah. Whenever I've got like a free 20-30 minutes, I sit down and I play some Destiny 2. It's just too good. It's too good, Saturn. It's too good.
I'll believe you.
That's the problem, man.
I'm not gonna die on that hill either. I'll just believe you.
I did in the game. I'm using. So they had their 30th anniversary DLC, and it included weapons that were homages to, stuff from Bungie's history. Because they've had other games, Marathon and Myth and Halo and all those other things they did.
Yeah.
And two of the weapons are homages to the pistol from Halo 1 and the battle rifle from Halo 2.
Okay.
And I've been using those as my main weapons. And I swear,
I know what those are.
Well, one's a gun from Halo 1 and one's a gun from Halo 2. You got the gist of it.
Yeah.
But what that means is since those are my two main weapons I've been using, I keep like forgetting that I'm not just playing Halo because I'm effectively using the guns from Halo.
Right.
And it's uncanny. Like when you're actually using Halo weapons, it feels those Bungie shooters have a distinct feel, is all I'm going to say. But yeah, I'm excited. I think February is going to be the new expansion, which is something of the Witch Queen.
Cool.
I don't remember the whole name. So that'll be very exciting. And at this point, I'm playing with several friends, and we have a clan. If you want to come play with us, then leave your clan that inevitably has all the clan rewards and stuff unlocked,
right? And
come join ours where we have nothing unlocked, and we play at random intervals. And yeah, you could do that.
There's no coordination. We'll never finish a raid.
I've also been kind of pecking away a little bit more at Conan, which is just a really solid C- game. It's exactly what you expect it to be. And
a solid, barely passing game.
That's okay. I did boot up because I talked about in the last episode. I bought some of the Xbox backward compatible games. I booted up Crazy Taxi, and I bought it knowing that it doesn't have the real Crazy Taxi soundtrack.
Right.
You know, and I know a lot of people get upset about like, oh, they removed all the product placement. That doesn't bother me.
Right.
But then I was like, well, I'm not going to miss the soundtrack that much. I mean, what are they going to put in? Just some random, like, video game music, right? It's worse. It's worse than that. They could have just put in some, like, generic video game electric guitar. But they put in some other music that's real, but it's like actual music, just like the original was.
Right.
And it's got lyrics, and it's bad. It's bad, and I just wish it was not bad. So finally, I just muted the music, and I went and I loaded up the Crazy Taxi soundtrack, and listened to that while I played. And that got
on the
got
PC version, I believe there's some fan mods that add.
Oh yeah. I've got the fan modded version on PC on Steam. It's got the original soundtrack, product placement. It's great. Nice. What a great version of the game. In retrospect, I don't know why I bought it on Xbox.
Me either.
But now I own it on Xbox.
It was cheap.
Something about like the old Sega Saturn and Dreamcast games being on Xbox, like I want to buy them. And I'm like, yeah. And so I buy them. Yeah. And then I play them elsewhere. Yeah. I do want to get Sonic Adventure 2 on there because the PC version still does not work. It doesn't function.
Right.
I don't know how people are playing this game. I don't know why it's still for sale all these years, but it does not work. So if you want a working game, don't buy it on PC.
In fairness, the original had issues on Dreamcast too.
Really?
I clipped through the ground plenty of times.
So, yeah. Well, that's just Shadow the Hedgehog's magic.
Yeah.
Is so strong.
The original Sonic Adventure too. There's Sonic Adventure as well, rather. On Dreamcast, there were.
That was my favorite Sonic Adventure. Sonic Adventure as well.
Yeah, it was the best one. It had the best Chouse Garden. But no, there were plenty of times when I would just fall through the landscape in that game. Like I enjoy Sonic Adventure, but it is a broken game.
Yeah. But that's all I've really been doing is just trying right now, trying to feel like a human being again. I'm getting there. I cleaned my house finally. Like nice. We've all been sick, and then it's the first time I've really cleaned in a long time. So it's we're getting there. We're getting there.
Nice.
What have you been up
to? I finished the Tomb Raider reboot, which I started 7 years ago.
Yes, I feel like for every hour of Destiny 2 I've been playing, you've been playing an equivalent amount of Tomb Raider.
I think I've grand total put in like 20 hours of actual gameplay, but I keep leaving it running while I'm doing other things. And so it's just sitting there on my Xbox staring at me, and I just hear noises of Lara hanging out at a campfire.
Yeah.
But no, it was good. It's definitely a product of its time, which is also kind of the product of this time, where it's just one of those cinematic games that makes you feel like the hero more than actually making you execute in any precise way.
Right, similar to Booger Man.
Pretty much the same as Booger Man. They're basically the same game.
I was just trying to think of the stupidest game to pretend it's like.
It's fine. It was when you finish the game, before the credits start, you get this personalized message from Crystal Dynamics that says, "Thank you for playing. We spent many years making this the absolute best game we could ever make."
Oh, so they're done. They're not going to make games anymore.
But then they made a sequel, which just makes me ask, did you intentionally make this one worse?
Right. Well,
because we know you made the best game you could ever make.
That's the canary in the coal mine there, right? They're going to be like, this is the best game we'll ever make no matter what. And then no matter what they're contractually obligated to do, just by virtue of making a game.
Well, I can definitely say that after playing the Avengers, it definitely was not as good as Tomb Raider. So that held up, that Tomb Raider was much better than the Avengers.
So it could be true.
So now I started the second one, Rise of the Tomb Raider. And I am...
what's she rising from?
A mountain. She's climbing a mountain.
Oh, okay. That's all right.
No, it's supposed to be rising from her survival, I guess, because she survived in the first game.
But not from her grave.
No. This isn't an altered beast scenario.
Wise from your grave.
But it's good. One complaint I have about both of them, which is the same complaint that I had about Batman Arkham Asylum, is that you spend the whole game in detective vision. Because you want to find the little hidden bullshit that they have.
To the point that you're like, why wouldn't you just make this light up in normal vision so I don't have to do this shit?
Exactly. Yeah. Only the difference in Tomb Raider is it just pulses. Like if you stand still, it'll stay in that view, but as soon as you move, it pulses away and you're back to regular view. So you have to keep hitting the button in order to see things. However, I found an unlock that allowed me to have things automatically glow when I approach them, which that's made the whole game better.
You know what game has handled that really? Because I've been dealing with that in Destiny 2. You have to like, you have this little like AI companion. You have to like take them out for you to like see all the map points on the map in front of you, and they'll go away after a while. And so I'm always pulling this thing back out and walking around with it.
Right.
Halo Infinite did a thing where you have like this like sonar pulse you can send out. You push a button on the controller and it's like, poof, and it lights up all the stuff for a while. So you don't have to be in some like dumb other mode.
Right.
Although even then, I'm still like, just make it always light up. Just make it always light up.
That's basically how it is in Tomb Raider. Is it just like it's essentially like a sonar? And then as soon as you move, it fades away. So I just keep tapping it as I'm walking, so that it basically acts like a sonar.
Right.
But no, I'm enjoying the second one. It tried to do the whole open world thing, which the first game was far more linear, where it was a bunch of different areas and there were things you could explore and find in each area, but it was very linear. It was very clearly you were going to this area, then this area, and this area. Whereas in the second one, it gave me a big open area with a bunch of quests in it, and I feel like that's possibly detracting from the game because the story makes it sound like everything is very urgent and she's going to die if she doesn't do this thing. And then somebody stopped me and was like, hey, could you go kill those wolves over there? And she's like, I'm on it. So,
the more time goes on, open world game design just feels like, I don't know, you make a game. Like,
right? We couldn't figure out pacing, so you figure it out.
You do it. We don't know. Fuck off. Here's some towers.
Fortunately, there's no towers. I appreciate that. Instead, you occasionally find a monolith that you have to learn a language first. And
monolith is kind of a sort of a tower.
But it's on the ground. Like, it's on the ground. You don't have to climb anything. You just walk up to it.
Towers are on the ground, too. They just extend very far upward.
But you don't have to climb anything. You just walk up to it. And as long as you know the correct language that the monolith is in, she'll just read it, and then it makes things light up on the map.
Right.
But the problem is that you have to go find some of the shit to learn the languages. So you've already found a bunch of the things that might have lit up for you. Which
I don't know. I'm just kind of getting like, as much as I like open world games, and I really do. Yeah. I'm just like tired.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, as soon as I saw that it was trying to do the open world thing, I was immediately a little exasperated because I was like, I enjoy the story. I enjoy the moment to moment gameplay here. I really don't want to have to clear out another map and every time I get to a new open map area. I just want to have a path. So I fear that the third one will be the same way, but we'll see. We'll see if I get there.
Although I say that, I've been thoroughly enjoying Halo Infinite's open world campaign. I think a lot of it is just it's not too massive. Like, it's a pretty decent sized open world, but it's not gargantuan.
Right,
it's not like Breath of the Wild size and scale where you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll give this one. Like the open world that I found, and there's multiple maps in this game. It's still a linear story based game, but the one open world map that I have found so far is maybe like a tenth of the size of Breath of the Wild's map, if that. So it's not super big. It's just dense.
Yeah. Let's do the news.
Yeah.
First up, Atari releases Breakout Recharged as part of their commitment to focus on making more games. Yeah. This is a bizarre idea. Atari is going to make games instead of cryptocurrency and shitty Android hardware?
Yeah, apparently they have some new leadership, and the new leadership thinks that they should be making games.
Okay, can I buy the games with my Atari coins, or what's the deal?
Possibly, because it was released on both Switch and Atari VCS.
Yeah. And can I win copies of the game at their casino?
That we don't know yet.
Okay, well, it just seems like...
it is on Atari VCS, so I have to assume yes.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's on Atari VCS for all 300 people. Can you just imagine being in that development meeting where someone's finally just like, we sold like 2,000 of these. Why are we putting time into developing a game for it?
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, I'm like, yes, Atari, please make games. But on the other hand, I'm like, you probably don't need to remake Breakout because Arkanoid exists.
It looks like a good version of Breakout, at least, from what I saw. I don't know that I'll pay money for it on the Switch, but it looked like a fine upgrade. They also did some other recharge. I think they did like Missile Command recharge or Asteroids recharge or something like that.
Have you read the press? I don't know if you're on. I actually do know if you're on Atari's press list, because why would you be? Are you?
Yep.
The press they sent out for Breakout just them describing the game.
So
oh, it was so dumb. It's just like, are you ready for a challenge? In Breakout, you have to break blocks without losing the ball. And then you could tell they were like, that's it, shit. Also, it's challenging. We don't know. Like they just
there's 12 colors.
Oh, yeah. But they the power ups they added, I'm like, it's just, I mean, this is shit that's in Arkanoid.
Yeah, Taito did it 30 years ago, almost 40 years, over 40 years ago. Yeah.
The source code to the Panasonic M2 BIOS has been found and dumped.
That's exciting to me.
What is this thing in the BIOS for?
The Panasonic M2. It was the announced successor to the 3DO.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. This is how little I know about the 3DO. Yeah. I have no idea what this is.
Yeah, this was Panasonic themselves were making it instead of the 3DO company, and they had
why was 3DO in some type of financial trouble of some sort? Or?
No, they were still doing fine then. They were still making Army Man games. They were releasing stuff on N64 and PlayStation. They were doing fine. But no, the Panasonic wanted to make a follow-up, and it was going to compete with the PlayStation and the Saturn and the N64. And the developers that looked at it actually said it was a really impressive piece of kit. And then it got canceled because they realized they did not want to compete with PlayStation and Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
But all these years later, somebody found enough of a working prototype, or maybe one that was sent to developers or to press or something, that they were able to dump the BIOS and preserve it. So that's really exciting to me.
That's good. Maybe Atari can port Breakout to it.
No.
The reverse engineered source code for Ocarina of Time that was dumped several months ago is now unsurprisingly leading to a PC port with 60 FPS, widescreen, and other amenities, because Nintendo's not gonna fucking do it.
No. Somebody showed off the in-progress video of it, and it looks like Ocarina of Time. It looks like Ocarina of Time. But
what's frustrating to me is that people in their bedrooms are making a modern, playable, improved version of Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Nintendo wants $80 a year to play a version that doesn't work right.
Well, it plays okay. It just looks like that.
Mostly is not good enough. It's just not good enough anymore, Nintendo.
It is really frustrating that the fan community is making better versions of these games than Nintendo is.
It's annoying, man. Now, also, I need to get my hands on a copy of this because I'm sure it's going to be gone real fast.
Yeah, it's not yet released to the public, and I imagine once it is, it'll be available for like 12 minutes.
Yeah, just like the Mario 64
right.
port. Now,
that said, I would like to see some mods for it so that they replace the HUD with something that actually addresses a real controller instead of an N64 controller.
Well, you could just use your Nintendo Switch Online N64 controller on your PC to play Ocarina of Time.
Or I could not.
You could also not. A Steamworks update allows for save data to upload to the cloud while a game is still suspended on a Steam Deck.
That's neat.
I feel like, I'm glad that you made a big deal out of this, because I feel like this is the kind of news people hear and they're like, so? This is a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Because without this, suspend mode on the Steam Deck would be incredibly frustrating for anyone that owns a regular PC and plays games on it.
Right.
Imagine sitting down like, oh, I'm going to keep playing Disco Elysium on my PC, and then you're like, oh, I've got it, I guess I have it suspended on my Steam Deck. I have to go over there, save that, close it, and then go back to my PC.
Right.
This is I can't even imagine how this works. This guy is insane.
Me either. And what I am more curious about is how it then feeds the data back to the Steam Deck, so that when you unsuspend, you're not just in that older save state. That's the part I want to learn how it handles.
I have to assume that whenever you open it, it says, hey, there's a newer save state, or a newer save. Do you want to jump to that? And you say yes.
Yeah, I hope so.
I suspect what's going to happen is on PC, if you go to play it, it'll say, hey, you've had the game suspended on your Steam Deck for 6 hours, the last cloud's autosave, because it can't upload your entire suspend data.
Right.
It would just upload the latest autosave. So it'd be like, hey, the latest autosave is from 20 minutes before you turned your Steam Deck off.
Right.
Is that okay? And you'd be like, all right, yeah. But the fact that they're thinking about it at all is bodes well for the inevitably rocky launch of the Steam Deck later this month.
Now that said,
or later next month. It's still January.
Now that said, they also updated the Steam database so that a lot of games are showing if they have full or partial compatibility with the Steam Deck, as far as what all functions they have, how well it performs, etc. So they're definitely getting themselves ready for it.
I'm quite excited for mine. I'm hoping that into February hits and a lot of people do not go through with their pre-orders, because I feel, like it's that first wave thing where because you haven't had to pay, no one's had to pay for one yet.
Correct.
And it's been several months and we don't know a lot more than we did.
Yeah, it's true.
And spending,
there's been some reviews. But...
spending like what, $350 to $650 on something that we really kind of know as much about as we did during the pre-order window. And a lot of people were like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see how many people the pre-order comes up and they go, yeah, never mind. I'm just not. Or even more, how many people in the intervening time got Xboxes or PlayStation 5s that maybe were like, oh, I'll get a pre-order on this thing because I got one, and then I'm trying to get a PS5. We'll see what happens.
And with how well remote play works on both Xbox and PlayStation at this point, maybe people decided that was enough for them.
Right. Not to mention, with like Game Pass streaming kind of leaving beta, like a lot has happened in a few months. Yeah. I think Switch stock is kind of normalizing a little bit.
Right. And Sony's got that rumored Game Pass competitor, Project Spartacus.
I think Nvidia just came out with their 3050s, which I heard instantaneously sold out. But there's more graphics cards on the market. People are working to cash. I don't know. I'm just curious to see if a lot of people come the end of February start getting bumped up because people chose not to. Where were we? Nvidia appears to be abandoning their attempt to acquire ARM, which is as huge news as the fact that they were buying ARM.
Yeah, though I'm also a little concerned about this because one, I don't like giant conglomeration. We've established that, but
who does? Yeah,
but if Nvidia is not buying ARM, my fear is Apple is going to swoop in and buy ARM.
Yeah.
And if not Apple, then Google or Samsung or somebody.
For Apple, it makes the most sense because they're going ARM on everything, and they have the cash. Honestly, if this gets shot down for the Nvidia thing, it feels stupid for Apple not to.
Right, and
it feels legitimately like it'd be really dumb if you didn't.
Now the thing is, if Nvidia is stepping away from it because they're being pushed away by regulators, which is what it looks like is happening both in the U.S. and in Europe. Yeah, would Apple fare any better than Nvidia?
Yeah, that is a good question because honestly, them saying like, no, this is too monopolistic for Nvidia to own this. I'm like, well, I mean, is it?
No, I mean it's a chip company owning another chip company, so I see where.
I guess so.
However, Nvidia has never made CPUs; they've only ever made GPUs.
Yeah, I was going to say their bread and butter is chips, but it's mostly graphics cards for x86 PCs, which is totally different.
Whereas their two competitors, Intel and AMD, both make both CPUs and GPUs. So I wonder if this is one of those situations where regulators just don't understand the technology.
And they're just like, hey, you make little things that go in a computer, and this is a company that makes little things that go in a computer, and it just looks too similar. But then when Apple comes along, they're like, oh, Apple, the phone company? What could possibly be the.
Right, that's my fear. So we'll see what happens there.
If Apple doesn't buy him, Google's going to buy him just to fucking.
That's the thing. Apple, Google, Samsung, one of those now massive companies, I think is going to gobble them up, and that's going to disrupt a lot more markets than if Nvidia.
We should buy them. We'll start a Kickstarter, and what do we need to raise? Like $20 billion?
Yeah, it'll be nothing. It'll take just a few days.
NSO Plus update has fixed some issues with N64 emulation. It has taken Nintendo months to fix some issues with N64 emulation.
And what's weird about this is on the Wii and the Wii U, when they did N64 emulation, they basically wrote a custom N64 emulator for each game. And with Switch Online, they just threw it out there with this one emulator for everything.
Yeah.
And now with this update, they're going back to game-specific fixes for things. And 4 games got fixed, one of them being Zelda, one being Paper Mario, which I did not realize apparently had a bug with the old emulator with Paper Mario where it had a chance of crashing and deleting all of your N64 saves off of your Switch.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah.
I can I just reiterate, I know I've said it in the chat, it is completely unacceptable for Nintendo to be in this state.
Yeah.
It just is. I'm sorry. You need one of your main pillar development arms working full steam on emulation if this is something you're going to be charging me money for, asking me to buy controllers for, and expecting me to play.
You don't understand.
I'm sorry.
That's just a free gift that they're giving you with the subscription.
Oh, right. Yes. I forgot about this old argument. Well, all these movies are free. You just pay for Netflix, and they just give them to you.
Yeah. No, it's the defense I've already seen online for it is, well, you're not paying for the N64 games. You're paying to be able to use Nintendo Switch Online. The Nintendo 64 games are just a free gift they give you.
Yeah, then how come that version costs more?
Right. Exactly. Like you can still get online with the base package. Oh, well, you're also getting the Animal Crossing expansion.
Right. That I could just buy separately.
You could buy that separately and spend less.
Capcom reports another record-breaking financial year, buoyed by fiscal year by sales of Resident Evil 8 and Monster Hunter Rise. Good for them.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Capcom continuing to succeed. That's a company I don't want to see get gobbled up, but
Same.
I think they're nearing the top of the list of who someone would want to acquire next.
It's starting to be that ARM thing where it's like, if you got the money for Capcom and you don't buy them, what are you fucking doing? Like, why would you not?
Yeah.
Following UK investigation, Microsoft will no longer send notifications
will now send notifications.
Will now send notifications. If it's on the teleprompter, I'm going to read it. Will now send notifications to inactive UK Game Pass subscribers. All these subscribers. Subscribers sounds like the name of a service you pay for to help you keep track of your subscriptions. And it is itself a subscription.
I thought subscribers sounded like a cartoon, a Saturday morning cartoon in the 80s.
Oh, about all the streaming services all being buddies and hanging out and going on adventures.
Only they're like little elves or something.
Yeah. Hey, look, it's Tubi TV.
Anyway. Yeah.
They will automatically cancel subscriptions if they do not respond. Basically, if you've lapsed on your subscription, then they will cancel it if you're not using it, which I feel should be law for all subscriptions.
Now, here's the thing. When I put that in the news, it was just going to be in the UK because it was a UK investigation that led to that. Microsoft has since announced they're going to do that worldwide. So if you have Game Pass and you're not using it for a few months, they're just going to cancel it and keep you from continuing to pay it, assuming that it is time for you to pay it anyway. If you still have 2 years left, they're not just going to cancel it in the middle of that. But additionally, they will send you a notification ahead of time to say, hey, your Game Pass you've been paying for it and not using it for a while. Do you want to use it? And if you don't do anything, they're just going to cancel it, which man, I wish every subscription service did that.
I wish they, I'll tell you this. I feel like MMOs would just shut down if they had to do that.
Right.
And like, how much? Yeah. Yeah, especially gyms.
Yeah.
Sega has announced that they will sell all remaining shares of their arcade operation and will be completely exiting the arcade business.
That's so sad.
It is very sad. So this kind of goes back to something. I mean, we've talked about Sega a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was on a show, but you and I were talking about Sega, and I was like, they're making money.
Yeah.
They're okay.
Yeah.
But the moves they keep making are not indicative of a company that's doing all right.
Right. And also all the talent that they're losing. Is not indicative of a company that's doing all right. Now, Sega left the arcade business here in the U.S. years ago. But, but now they are also leaving it in Japan, which just begs the question, where will Ichiban go in the next Yakuza game?
They'll have to go to... Well, they'll just put in more shogi parlors.
Oh, good. God, why? Why would you say that? Oh. And more mahjong, too, right?
I think I'd rather learn Japanese than how to play shogi.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you.
And then finally, Ubisoft will go on with their NFT plans.
Oh, boy.
And in an interview, an executive said that players, quote, just don't get it.
That's fair. You know what? The players don't get it. The players don't get that what it is Ubisoft wants to make all the money.
Yeah, no, I don't get why you're so fucking stupid, Ubisoft. You're correct. I don't get why you're such money-grubbing, sex crime-defending dicks.
Yeah, that's the he's referring to.
That's
what you guys don't get.
I don't get how you still exist. I don't get how you've avoided all legal repercussions. I don't get it.
It's just completely bizarre and yeah, you did call it, but I'm still just continually upset at how often I have to see companies talking about their NFT blockchain future.
I mean, Sega, Konami, and Ubisoft already. It's January.
And Square Enix.
And Square Enix. It's January.
Yeah. I'm just disgusted by it.
It's coming, man. This whole year, by the end of the year, it's going to be like, it's going to be bad.
I'm waiting for Capcom to release some Resident Evil 8 official Step on Me Mommy NFTs.
Because here's the thing. Like the shit Konami's doing, like Ubisoft is the worst of it. They're putting it in games.
Yep.
And what frustrates me is I read this interview, and I know I need to get to the topic, and I know it's not retro, but I want to bitch about Ubisoft because I read this fucking interview. And what he was doing is he was going, well, you can own your items in the game, and when you're done playing the game, you can sell your items for real money.
Oh,
First
you mean
of all,
after everybody stopped playing the game and they're not worth anything?
Yes. First of all, you fucking jackass. Whenever I buy, and he's like, well, so what it is you're going to get a helmet in Ghost Recon. It's got a number on it. It's got a serial number.
Yeah.
And it's the only one because it's an NFT. Well, it's not an NFT. It's tied to a transaction on a blockchain, but it's an NFT.
Yeah.
And then whenever nobody wants to play the new Ghost Recon because it's fucking dog shit and it's 4 years old or whatever the situation becomes, you can sell it for a nickel.
Yeah.
Isn't that great, man? It's the fucking future.
Or
you're just gonna have to pay 5 times more for it, though. That's all.
Or in the first week, some farm will not pay a bunch of children to collect items for them, and then they'll sell them while it is still popular for way too much money.
Yeah, and this is what frustrates me is because this is my next prediction. I've already made my NFT prediction, and it is coming true. It has happened.
Yeah.
My next prediction is this. Ubisoft is going to implement this, and a bunch of people are going to make a bunch of money the first month the game comes out.
Yeah.
And they're going to track how much money players are making. And then they're going to release this data, and they're going to go, obviously players love this. We've had players make $10 million, whatever crazy-ass number they come up with, without acknowledging that the people making that money in these...
2% of people.
They're 2% of people. They're usually farms and play-to-earn groups that play together to farm this stuff out as a job. And for people that haven't heard the term, that's what it's called, play-to-earn.
So gross.
And they're going to totally ignore the fact that those are the only people making money, and it was only in that time frame. And now the 99.9% of us aren't going to make shit off of anything in the game, but they're going to use it in this multi-level marketing scam kind of thing to be like, well, the people at the top made money. You could make money too.
So gross.
And that's what's going to happen. And then Ubisoft is going to make gobs of money doing it.
And you know what? This is why we focus on retro games, because they don't have the shit in them.
And then Square Enix is going to look over and go, man, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a whole lot of money.
What if we made every materia an NFT?
Oh my God. And they put a little serial number in it, like Cloud's head or something. It's disgusting. Because here's the the point of owning, the theoretical point of even owning a digital good is that you can own it outside of a platform because the thing you own it on is separate from that platform.
Right.
But I got news for you. That Ghost Recon helmet you only own it in Ghost Recon.
Yep. And
you're not going to sell it outside of Ghost Recon. Who would buy it?
You may only own it in Ghost Recon on that platform. So if you moved from Xbox to PlayStation, you might not own that helmet anymore.
It's fascinatingly stupid.
Yes.
I am
mind-bogglingly stupid.
blown away at how dumb this is. And it's going to, because at least Konami is just like, we're going to sell some JPEGs of a whip. You're like, you know what? It's stupid.
Yeah.
But you're not trying to like, you know, it's not any more of a scam than it already is.
Right. They made a few $100,000 selling JPEGs, and now they're done for today until they print up some more JPEGs.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's it makes me sad. People, it's a scam. Please don't buy these.
Seriously.
Please. The topic at hand this week is Wonderboy or Hudson's Adventure Island if you're in the West.
No, they were both. It was called both those things in the West.
Was it?
Yes.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yep.
Anyway, it is about a tribal caveman running around an island or a stranded businessman. Take your pick. They don't really seem to know. He rides a skateboard. That's the important
Sometimes
part.
he rides a skateboard.
This was developed by Escape, later known as Westone.
West One, I think we determined.
Westone. It's published by Sega as Wonderboy. Came out in the arcade in March 1986 on the SG-1000, later in 86, and the Master System in March 1987. Published by Hudson as Adventure Island on the NES and MSX in September of 1986. I think I've played this.
Westone is my favorite thing to get at an Italian restaurant.
Y'all gotta get the Westone.
No sauce.
No sauce. That's just noodles. I've played this before.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk more about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a little early. It's a little early NES for me.
Okay.
And it's not that I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like a single M&M. I like M&Ms. But if you give me one M&M, I'm going to be like, oh, that's nice. Do you have any more? No. We don't have any more.
That was your one.
Well.
Then it wasn't really an M&M so much as it was an M, is it?
Oh, you got me. So, you know, I've played it before a few times. I've never really put much time into it.
Yeah.
You know, was never in my lineup of games.
Obviously I played the NES version because I live in America, and I didn't own a Master System.
You didn't have an import SG-1000 copy?
I did not have one of those either. I may have seen Wonderboy in an arcade, though. I may have seen that. I don't recall playing it, though I could have. But I definitely played it on the NES. But because we played it on the NES, I played it after Super Mario Brothers because our system came with Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
And so it was hard to appreciate in that mind space, but it still had enough charm that I rented it more than once. And I definitely rented the sequels as well. And it in my mind, it became one of those like pillar franchises on the NES, like Mega Man and other things that just like, oh, that's one of those things that everybody has played. But I don't know if it
in
actually
Japan
is.
a little bit.
Yeah, in Japan it was. But over here, I don't know if it was, but in my mind, it always was.
No one. No one. Tell me about the development of Wonderboy.
So Sega had commissioned the company then known as Escape before they became Westone.
Sticking with that, huh?
I'm sticking with it. I'm keeping it. No, they had commissioned Escape to help them create a new mascot character to represent Sega, because this was obviously pre-Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes.
And this was before Alex Kidd had really been established. So they were still struggling with trying to find some kind of a mascot character. However, apparently Sega is not good at contracts.
Mm-hmm.
They borked this. So they made this contract with Escape. They made the game, but Escape held the copyright to the game. Sega only owned the character and the name. And even then, it's questionable if they owned the name. Some people think that maybe Sega didn't own the name. They just owned the actual character.
They just owned this one copy of the game that they bought from them.
Yeah, they bought an NFT of the game.
You don't actually own the game.
Yeah.
No, not at all. You own the idea that you have purchased the game. Enjoy!
Right. So Sega, trying to get a new mascot character, bought the character, but not the game that he's in.
Yeah.
So, but Sega did release the game in arcades and on their platforms, but Escape wanted to maximize their returns on this development, like they should. And
totally.
so they licensed out the game to Hudson to release on non-Sega platforms.
Oh no.
So Hudson released it on the NES and the MSX, and Sega was fully aware of this. They were just like, "Oh, that's fine. It's not our version, whatever." Because Sega was also releasing games on MSX and NES through other companies, so it wasn't that weird. But in addition to changing the name of the game, Hudson opted to change the player character from the caveman Wonderboy to their own spokesman, Toshiyuki Takahashi.
Now I believe we did an episode on
Hudson.
Did we do on Master Takahashi?
No, we just talked about him on the Hudson episode. Yeah.
What a fascinating.
Yeah.
Japan is culturally very different from us in this kind of idea, in that like they'll have, oh, this person's a famous jingle writer, and you're like, I'm sorry, they're famous for what? Writing jingles. They write all these famous jingles.
You're referring to Shigesato Itoi there.
Yes, I am talking about Itoi. And it's this. They have a very different kind of celebrity over there.
And the thing is, if you look back in the U.S., in our history, we had a similar weird level of celebrity, but ours was in like the 50s, 60s, 70s. By the 80s, we had established basically the same level of celebrity we have now.
Yeah, it was you're on TV or you're in movies.
Right. But like occasionally I'll watch really old game shows, and like I was watching an episode of What's My Line from the 50s, and they're introducing the panel, the celebrity panel, and one of the panelists was an editor from the encyclopedia, and one was
for kids out there, encyclopedia is like if Wikipedia was printed in a book.
Right. And one of the panelists was a woman who was singing at a nightclub in Tulsa. It was just is very different compared to what we have today. So we also went through that. Japan kind of is still going through that, but was definitely still going through that in the 80s and 90s.
It's and the interesting thing about Master Takahashi is that, I mean, obviously he was Hudson's spokesperson. Wasn't he like a president of the company? Like he was like, wasn't he a high, or was he just hired just to be a spokesperson?
He was hired to be a spokesperson. He eventually moved up in the company, but originally he was brought on to be a spokesperson because of how well he played Star Soldier.
But I watched the Game Center CX episode for this game, which great episode if you haven't seen it out there, listener. And the way they talk about Takahashi is like they know him. It's not like, because people are like, oh, they hired him as a spokesperson. In America, we're like, oh, yeah, like the where's the beef lady? Like, no. They know Master Takahashi. They know. He wrote him a letter in the show and was like, good luck on your game. Like it's an ongoing thing. It's not like he was just hired to promote a brand for a little bit and then he kind of that's like still his identity.
Right. And he stayed with Hudson for years. I want to say until about the time that Konami bought Hudson.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they replaced Wonderboy with Master Takahashi. So you play as Master Takahashi. However, they were worried that Master Takahashi wouldn't work with a Western audience, just some random Japanese guy on an island. So they renamed the game from Master Takahashi's Adventure Island to Hudson's Adventure Island, and they renamed the character to Master Higgins.
Yes.
Same character, same sprite, but now he's Higgins. He is a eccentric millionaire who got stranded on an island looking for his girlfriend.
Unfortunately, they did not also hire a real-life Master Higgins for us to have in America as our Master Takahashi equivalent.
Right. They should have hired some guy named Higgins to get really good at Star Soldier.
I don't know why when I imagine a guy named Higgins, he was a butler.
Yeah.
Higgins!
That's how I've always thought it, too. Anytime that I was like, how is the millionaire's name Master Higgins? That should be his butler's name.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? I think he lied. He got to the island and he was like, I can start a new life here. I can be anyone I want.
I'm a millionaire. You sure you're not a butler? Yes.
Yes. It's his incredulous voice. How dare you? I'm making myself laugh too much. What else, Saturn?
No, that's the development. So as far as story goes, that's it. It's guy stuck on island has to save girlfriend. The end.
Let's talk presentation.
Yeah.
The arcade and Sega Master System versions allegedly are better looking than the NES version. Now, I'll say this: the arcade
color,
the arcade version looks way better than the NES version.
Definitely.
I've not played the Master System version. I played the arcade version.
So the Master System version looks pretty close to the arcade version. Like the sprites are smaller, but otherwise they look pretty similar. However, both the Master System and arcade version have a much better color palette than the NES version does. I did not play the SG-1000 version, though, so I can't speak to that, but I imagine it does not look as good.
Yeah. Because I watched the Game Center CX, I played the NES version, I played the arcade version. The arcade version I find significantly more compelling than the NES version. And it's gameplay wise, it's identical.
Yeah.
And I think what it is
something about it being an arcade game. It does feel very arcadey.
I think what it is there's just so little going on that even looking slightly better, which I mean really it looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Just looking a little better does have a discernible impact on my enjoyment.
Right.
You know, so that's kind of the interesting thing there is that I played the NES version and I was like, it's okay. And then I played the arcade version and I was like, this is pretty fun. So this is one of those games where it's such a simple game, which we're about to get into the gameplay. Right. But it's such a simple game that presentation does make a big difference. Also, the sound quality is a little better on the arcade version, obviously.
Oh, yeah. And if you want to play the arcade version legit, it is available for sale on the PlayStation 4 and only the PlayStation 4.
Let's talk gameplay. Because I didn't know this, but just playing the game, I messaged you and I said, hey, is this a pre-Super Mario Brothers platformer? And you go, yes. And I go, that explains it. So
now, technically it came out after Super Mario Brothers.
Right, but was in development before Super Mario Brothers literally revolutionized platforming games. Exactly. And I feel like, because I feel like people talk a lot about like, oh, Mario 64 revolutionized. Like, no. Super Mario Brothers 1, it didn't just change video games. It just exploded all of them out of the atmosphere. Yeah. Like it nuked the whole planet, and now it's just Mario, and this is our new starting point.
And it wasn't even just platformers. A lot of things got affected by Mario and its controls, like run and gun shmups. All have Mario-style platforming controls because everyone realized that's how you do it.
Yeah. So, and all this to say that for people that maybe are younger or really even my age or younger, because if I hadn't had an older brother, I very well may have missed the original Mario, Super Mario 1, because I was born in 88.
Yeah.
So I'm not really ready to play Mario till like 92, 93 at the earliest, to really cognizantly play the game.
And by then, Mario World has been out for a few years.
Yes. So, Mario 1 at first glance, because everything has been built on top of it, it's easy to not appreciate what it brought to the table, the ideas of weight and acceleration.
Yep.
These really subtle ideas that were present in Mario that made it so groundbreaking.
Yeah.
It's really easy to forget about them until you play a game that did not have Mario as a base operating line. Right. And Wonderboy does not have Mario.
No.
And so you play it and you're like, it just feels kind of jank. Like, what is this? What is going on here?
You can find like videos on YouTube that are, like GDC talks from people that have made platformers, and they'll talk about a lot of the platform elements that people don't think about when they're playing a platform, like how quickly you stop when you let go of the D-pad, or whether or not you have coyote time, whether or not you can hang off of a ledge by 1 pixel. All this little stuff that people still microanalyze today and decide whether or not to put into platformers, and it helps determine whether or not a platformer feels good, even in the modern era. And a lot of that stuff came from Super Mario Brothers, and the platformers before that don't take any of that into consideration. So everything feels very slippery, and
imprecise.
Definitely imprecise.
And maybe even more than that, they didn't even take from each other most of the time.
True.
Because there was no, it was part of it was that Mario just brought so much to the table, so much design language.
Yeah.
But then the other part of it was Mario was so big that of course you cribbed from Mario. But before Mario, it was like, oh, well, we're making a platformer. What other platforms are there? Well, there's these 10, and they're all completely different from one another in every way.
And the closest
like,
to Super Mario Brothers was probably Donkey Kong, which even then, not too many people directly emulated its physics. So, it wasn't nearly as influential.
So gameplay-wise, this is a runner game. It's a runner.
Essentially.
Yeah, you run left to right. There's almost no verticality.
Right.
There are some like platforms up and down and some jumping, but it's never much in the way of. It's never much vertical movement.
No,
it's enough that you really feel like it feels kind of flat.
Right. You do have to jump over pits or enemies or whatever. But that's about it.
Another thing that I really notice about it is so it's an auto, and it's not. We'll get to the power ups, but it's a runner. You can kind of pause, but you're on a timer, right? Your health, it's not really your health, but your timer bar is always running down,
right?
And you can pick up fruit to extend it,
right?
But the enemy placement was also very striking to me, coming from that Mario design space. It feels like they placed it like, all right, we've got this screen here. We need to put enemies on it. So here's a couple obstacles, a couple boulders to run into, and here's a squid jumping.
Right.
And it feels completely disconnected from the rest of the level design-wise. Which, again, coming from that Mario design language, feels so
antiquated.
Weird. Yeah, it feels old. It feels like you're writing a book and every page is a totally unrelated story. And you're like, well, I mean... That's fine, I guess. Sometimes the pages are interesting, but I kind of was hoping that it would make sense. I feel like it sounds like I'm complaining about the game. I think really what I'm doing is I setting expectation.
Right, you're trying to preface what the mindset somebody should be in when they.
There's so very little going on in this game.
Yeah.
It as far as like even later in ES, it feels like almost no game is here. So you've got fruit pickups. Whenever you die, you get bumped back to a checkpoint. And you lose
if you've encountered a checkpoint.
Yeah, and then if you, it's one of those back at the beginning of the game situations. If you die all the way, now you do have an attack. Right. Master Higgins does have a little stone throwing axe that he can pick up.
Right.
That for whatever reason you don't start with, but it just gives it to you instantly, all of the time.
There's always an egg right there when you die, so that you can immediately grab it again. Yeah. I don't know why they don't just make it standard.
It kind of feels like what they wanted. And this might be it's so hard not to inject later design into my expectations of this game, right? Because in my head I was like, well, how come when I have the axe, how about I can get hit once and then I lose the axe and then I get hit again? Like that would make sense.
Which
like,
I think
why
they
you have
do
to
in the
pick
later games.
Mm-hmm. But as it stands, the axe is just kind of weird.
It's a thing you have to get.
It's just a thing, yeah. And beyond that, it's not very satisfying to use. It doesn't have a lot of physics in it.
Yeah, it's just a weird arc, and the arc is kind of broken sometimes. Like if you try to slow down or go backwards a little bit, it's really hard to aim with it at all. You really have to learn that specific arc it will always throw at, to be able to hit anything with it.
Or just use a turbo controller.
That's also an option.
Just fire them out.
Or just slam the button 16 times per second like Master Takahashi.
Yeah. And then if you have the hammer and you get another egg, it may also drop a skateboard.
Right.
And as far as I could tell in my gameplay, if you don't have the hammer, you can't get the skateboard.
I believe that's correct, yes.
So standard technological progression,
it's supposed
stone
to be an
hammer
axe, not a hammer.
into skateboard. Pardon me, not hammer. Stone axe into skateboard. That's how technology, it's like in Civ, right? You make the
that's
stone
pretty
axe,
much
stone tools, and then skateboards.
Right, yeah, that's pretty much the direct path, yeah.
This skateboard sucks.
It does. It makes you go way too fast.
It just forces you to auto run.
Yeah.
And there's no point in it.
it
not
makes
like
you faster so that your health doesn't drain as quick.
Right, but I don't want to be faster because it's a runner game. Like it feels like it hurts you more than it helps you.
Yeah, but he puts on little pads.
It is cute. He's very safe on that skateboard. He's not getting hurt.
He's on a deserted island. Where did the skateboard come with the pads?
I don't know. What came out of the egg, right? Whatever weird
fully
chicken laid that egg.
with pads.
You can also get an invincibility fairy, which in GCCX they were calling her Honey.
That is
was
her name,
apparently.
Honey Ute.
And you can also accidentally pick up an eggplant that drains your timer bar, which sucks.
Why does Japan hate eggplant?
I asked this in the chat. I was like, does anyone culturally know why eggplants are always this negative vegetable? In someone posted a Reddit thread, and I was kind of reading, and there seems to be a lot of debate about this. Huh. But from what I can gather, the general consensus is it just seems weird to us because eggplants aren't super common in the U.S. Huh. And in my head, I was like, all right, what if it was broccoli in all of these? If every game it was like, oh, this bad power-up is a broccoli, I don't know that I would find it strange.
Yeah, I would still find it strange because I would be like, why broccoli? Why not cauliflower this time?
Nutritious broccoli. It's a superfood. So I don't know. I had the same question. I was like, you've got Kid Icarus. You've got, wasn't it? It's in Ice Climbers. Yep. It's in Adventure Island. It's in, what else is it in?
I don't know. But at least those three, and that's already too many.
Yeah. And really, that's the entire game. It's auto running. You can get a stone axe. You can get a skateboard that sucks. There's an invincibility pickup.
Oh, there's a boss every 4 levels.
The
same boss.
Emphasis on a boss. Yeah, every 4 levels, you fight the same boss. And the boss is super easy.
Yes.
I didn't make it to the end. Is the final boss different at least?
Nope, it's the same boss.
So it's just like, what is it, 32 or 36 levels of the exact same auto running and then the same boss every few levels.
Yeah. Now, in the NES version, you can also find hidden eggs that have better items, like a fireball instead of an axe, which is the same weapon, it's just stronger. And that doesn't matter for most enemies, but it does for bosses a little bit.
I was about to say, everything's single hit, isn't it?
Yeah, except for bosses. And then there is one hidden egg in the very first stage, and only in the first stage, in 1-1.
Yes.
That has,
continue thing.
Yeah,
right?
It has a honeybee, the Hudson logo, that will let you get a passcode if you die. And that's the only way to get a continue. Otherwise, you always go back to level 1.
And that's it. That's the whole game. So before we get into ports, Saturn.
Yes, sir.
It's not that I don't like it. But again,
you just don't get it.
Well, no, I get it too. I'm like, I get it for like 1 minute. And then I'm like, all right, I've played everything. This, like, once you make it to the first boss, just imagine that like 10 more times, but harder. That's the whole game.
Wait till we get to reception.
All right. Let's talk ports.
Okay. So Hudson did have the NES and MSX rights, so they published it there. But Sega sublicensed it to Activision to release on the Commodore 64, the Amstrad, and the ZX Spectrum. And those versions were all released in 87 and received mixed to poor reviews. So all of those people in 1987 were living in a post-Super Mario Brothers world.
Yes.
And received... They received Wonderboy on their microcomputer or PC of choice in 1987 and were told to enjoy it as if it were a platformer.
Yes.
Sega also ported the game to Game Gear in late 1990. It did okay on Game Gear, which, it's a port of a 4-year-old arcade game to a Game Gear. It's
what's funny to me is I feel like if this came out like after Crash Bandicoot and on like Game Boy Color, I feel like it would have done all right because Crash was a runner.
Yeah.
And I've also learned that I don't really like runners.
Yeah, it's generally not my thing.
And so I kind of wonder, because there's this sort of like Crash Bandicoot was very big, and it kind of was like its own sort of thing, where it's like, well, it's not really a platformer. It's. I mean, we say runners now because I think runners on mobile have kind of standardized the idea of the runner, but there were runners before, Cannabalt and stuff on mobile phones. And Crash Bandicoot was. I could see it. I could see it like game magazines being like, oh, if you like Crash Bandicoot, it's like a slightly simpler version of that on the Game Boy. Like, I could really see that.
I'm honestly surprised it didn't come out on the Game Boy, because it did come out on GBA in Japan as part of the Famicom Classic series.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Because over there it is a respected classic game.
Yes.
Whereas over here we mostly forgot it. So it is weird that they didn't re-release it on anything over here. But
and it was obviously part of the Game Gear because it was on Master System.
Yeah, and that's an easy port. But it did work fine on Game Gear, so
let's talk reception.
So Game Machine magazine in Japan listed Wonderboy as the 5th most successful arcade unit of May '86. And the game was the 10th highest grossing arcade game of the latter half of '86. Euromax listed the game as the 2nd most successful arcade game in the UK in '87, right behind Capcom's 1942.
Okay.
And Games Radar Plus, the website, ranked it as the 23rd best NES game ever made. Whereas other retro reviews specifically seem to be a little more mediocre, averaging around a 6 out of 10. The reviews that I found that were contemporaneous did not give it a score because the review industry was so early that they just weren't giving scores to NES games yet.
Basically, reviews back then were like
buy it,
handwritten press releases.
Yeah, it was an advertisement.
This is how the game works.
Yeah. Sometimes you find a fairy.
Games Radar is wrong there. Because let's see, you've got 3 Mario games,
6
3
Mega
Castlevania games, 6 Mega Mans, 3 Castlevanias. You've got all the Disney games, your 2 DuckTaleses, your Chip. There's just no way it makes top 25.
Star Tropics.
There's no... Okay, all right, let's slow down.
Even if you're just looking at island-based games, Star Tropics is better than Adventure Island 1.
So I don't... Like, could I see it in top 100? Maybe not. Because I could see it in like top 150. How many NES games are there? There's like 900 licensed North American NES games.
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, other stuff up. I mean, there's Gargoyle's Quest, Final Fantasy, Kid Icarus. There's so many games to put ahead of it.
Yeah, I own 130-ish NES games, and it is one of the ones that I own. And I enjoy it, but I also enjoy it from a place of nostalgia. So
I used to own about 120 NES games. I pared my collection down, trimmed the fat. I'm around 60 or 70 now, and I'm just going to kind of sit there.
Right.
I have a feeling that if this was in my collection,
it'd be on the chopping block.
It might have been in it might have been sold. It might have been in the list of games that I don't play this, Let's talk legacy. Because it's Wonderboy, right? They're still making Wonderboy games.
That really depends on what you mean by legacy. So as we mentioned, there was Wonderboy and there was Adventure Island, and these each have their own legacy. So Wonderboy spawned its franchise that pretty quickly turned into search action games with Wonderboy and Monsterland, I believe, being the first one of those. And they continue to split it between arcades and home consoles for a little bit there until ultimately that series ended with Monster World 4 on the Mega Drive in '94. And then Adventure Island spawned its own franchise that mostly played like the original game with more Mario-like improvements where the physics were better and you could get different weapons like a boomerang or a torch. And you could ride a little dinosaur around, which was adorable. And then that series also became search action with Adventure Island 4 and Super Adventure Island 2. Yeah. And that series continued on Nintendo and NEC platforms until Super Adventure Island 2 on Super NES, also in 1994. That's when both series died. There was a full HD remake of this original game called Wonderboy Returns.
Now, how much does this make it more of a game by modern standards, or is it really just
I haven't played
doggedly faithful?
I can't speak to that. The videos that I've seen on Steam make it look pretty faithful to the original, except for the graphics. It looks like a modern game. Right, I should have here. Wonderboy Returns remix. Yes. It was the original.
It's on sale for $6.
Yeah. The original.
Oh man, these graphics are bad though. I'm sorry, I'm keep interrupting you about this. This looks. This really looks.
It looks like a cheap budget project.
It looks. identical.
I forgot who published or who made that one.
CFK.
Sure. So, yeah. So
Other games they've done include. Looking for a name that I've ever seen before. Oh, I thought that said Zookeeper. It says Zoo Seeker.
Oh,
okay.
boy.
All right.
Yeah, so that came out on Steam back in 2016. They did release on PS4 the next year, and then the Wonderboy Returns remix, like you mentioned, also released on Switch in 2019. So if you want to play it on a console, you can. And the NES game, Adventure Island, spawned an anime series called Honeybee in Toy-Com Land. Which was all about the power-up fairy.
Yeah.
Because her name is Honey.
Yes.
And,
well, obviously the more interesting character between the two in the game.
And that, in turn, spawned its own NES game called Takahashi Meijin no Bugte Honey, where you play as the fairy as she tries to save both Master Takahashi and his girlfriend.
Well, that's cute.
Yeah. That's weird, but, you know.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Steam game, and I'm actually, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm a little offended that they call it remix in the title, and then in the trailer are like remix of Wonderboy. There, a remix, CFK, is when you change something in any way.
So they had originally released it as just Wonderboy Returns. And then they changed the graphics a little bit, and that version is called Remix because it is a remix of Wonderboy Returns.
You can play as a different character, Tanya.
Yes, the girlfriend.
But that's it. That's it.
So the remix isn't a remix of the original game; it's a remix of Wonderboy Returns.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but no, it does look more or less identical.
How does this only have partial controller support?
Well, that's depressing.
Yeah, I'm starting to think this is not a great version of the game.
Yeah, so that one, I believe they did not get in touch with the original creator of the Wonderboy series. Whereas the other Wonderboy inspired games like the Dragon's Trap remake and Monster Boy and the Aisha and Monster World that just came out, all those, they actually did get the original designer of Wonderboy on board, and he helped with them and all that. And there's some interviews with him about that. I was trying to look at those to see if he would say anything about the original, about the development of the original, and basically he was like, we made this game in the 80s.
Here it is.
Yeah, so... But yeah, so there was the anime and the anime spinoff game, and then also Hudson released a modified remake of the game on PS2 and GameCube in 2003 called Hudson Selection Volume 4, and it never left Japan. It was part of a collection with other Hudson remakes like Star Soldier and Bonk's Adventure and stuff like that. And then Master Takahashi, in his island outfit from Adventure Island, makes cameo appearances in other Hudson games like Saturn Bomberman or Dream Mix TV World Fighters and some others. But when he appears in a game, he is always in his island outfit from Adventure
Island. As far as final thoughts, it's like asking me to review like a ham sandwich. It's like, that's fine. Ham sandwiches are fine. Those are okay. Like, would I be like, oh man, you got to play Adventure Island? No. Do I think it's a bad game? No. It's just not much of a game. You know?
I am going to be slightly nicer to it.
Okay. I feel again. It's like I don't even feel like I'm being mean to it. It's just I'll say this. If you want to kill like 20 minutes. And you got it on an emulator, load it up. It's okay. It's okay time.
I would say that if you have enjoyed any of the Wonderboy or Adventure Island games, it is worth going back to see where it came from.
Yeah. From historical perspective, absolutely.
Right.
Check it out. Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I don't know that I would recommend going out to buy it. Fortunately, it is no longer on the Wii Shop channel, since the Wii Shop channel doesn't exist anymore. I don't think Konami released it on Wii U. So
NES cart is like $15 still, which
15? Holy shit.
Yeah, I think it's 15 when I checked.
Damn, that used to be one of the like $1 games.
I'll be honest. It's on the Steam version's on sale for $7. I don't know that it's $7.
I wouldn't pay $7 for that. I haven't bought it on Steam or PS4 or Switch.
Like, if you could get Adventure Island, like, obviously get it for free because we live in 2022. But if it's like, hey, someone's going to sell me a copy for $2, yeah, definitely for $2.
Right. Now,
I'd buy that.
However, if you just want to experience this kind of game with like this kind of aesthetic, play the sequel on TurboGrafx, New Adventure Island, because it's still good, I would say anyway. It has enough improvements that it makes it a better game. Alternatively, Adventure Island 2 on Game Boy or Adventure Island 4 on NES are much more beefy games that have more going on.
Right. There's stuff happening.
Right. Whereas with Wonderboy, it went so far away from this that any of them from Dragon's Trap up, I generally recommend. They're all just solid games, but they don't play it all like this anymore. Once they gave Wonderboy a sword, it stopped playing like this at all.
Yes.
Master Higgins always kept his goofy stone axe.
Yeah.
So...
yeah, I will say of all the games in these two franchises I've played, it's the only one that I wasn't like, this is really good. Again, not bad. I don't know. It's just it's like
very much a product of its time.
I don't feel like I'm being mean to it. It's just like, why? There's no reason to be that nice. You know, it's like when someone's at work and they're like, hey, what do you think about Steve? And you're like, Steve's fine, I guess. But do you like him? I don't know. I say good morning to him when I walk in. Yeah, but like, you think he's a good guy? I don't know. I have no opinion on Steve.
See,
Steve's fine.
I think it also helps that I am slightly older than you and have a little more appreciation for that older era, the Atari era and the early arcade era. And it makes me appreciate this game a little bit more than that. Like, I can still play it and have fun, but I'm not going to go out of my way to play it over another game.
This game makes me think of... feature phone games.
Ouch.
It's not in quality, just in the amount of gameplay you would expect.
That's fair.
You know, the amount of time you would expect to spend with this is probably the amount of time you'd expect to spend with Snake on your feature phone, you know.
I do remember playing the NES version of this on a Play Choice 10 once.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
That's good times.
I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah. It's a fine game.
You know what else is fine? Our
that
Patreon.
Was the weakest segue you've had in a while. Weak sauce, sir.
I'm continuing the trend. It's fine. It's all right. We have a Patreon. It's more than fine. It's fantastic. It's at patreon.com/Retro Warriors. You can get uncut versions of this show. You can get Talking Wizards. You can get After Hours. You can also just get a sense of satisfaction that you're helping us out. That's free. You just have that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, you got to donate for it. But
or if you just
if
you review us on your podcast app, that'll also give you that satisfaction.
Same sense of satisfaction right there. I know that's what you're after.
Right.
Listeners. Now I'm talking directly to you. Anyway, we would love if you would consider reviewing us and supporting us. And we want to thank the following supporters, starting with Atari 2600 consultant Marlowe 221.
And Dilf Toast Esquire. Starting strong.
Joe Frankum.
Slick Rick.
Mike Rotondo.
A Sphincter Says What?
Michael Castro.
Harry Pry.
John Fry.
And freecodecamp.org Quincy Larson.
Are all the patrons we want to thank this week, and we want to thank you so much for listening. We'll be back in a couple weeks with something that hopefully I'm more fired up about.
We'll be back next week.
We'll be back next week.
Yes.
With, I don't know why I said a couple. I don't know what's happening
week.
anymore.
We're always back next week.
Maybe
you'll be
so
back
long.
in a couple weeks. Maybe you're going to have to take another week off.
I don't know what's happened, like in a haze. I'm breathing too much humidifier. So, you know, it's what it is. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. And as always, let us cling together.